Hello, today we'll have a bit unusual review because it's not a portable audio and it's even hard to call personal audio because today we are talking about active speakers created by FiiO. Its name SP3, their price is $300. And I think a lot of review channels and sites will review them in some near future too. So, before I proceed, I must warn you that I have almost zero experience with speakers because I have these speakers and another ones. So just two pair of speakers and second pair is Shenlink Jet. So I don't have any expertise in this speakers area. I know that there are a lot of popular desktops and shelf speakers, active ones and passive like studio monitors, multimedia and so on. But if you're interested in the opinion of a guy who has only headphones experience mainly, so let's proceed. What we've got here? We've got a pair of active speakers that FiiO created to accompany their R7. I reviewed R7 some time ago and I really like it. It's perfectly fit into my experience and I have a lot of usages for it. I reviewed it, made a video about accessories I use with it, but FiiO also decided to broaden the set of accessories for this device. And they released the full-size headphones FT3. They of course can be used with many other devices, but FiiO constantly shows them with R7 in particular, like hinting you about that setup you can build. But then they made a perfect step, they implemented great idea, they released two compact speakers that have almost the same size that R7 to work with it. And it's SP3. It's really small, volume of cabinet is 2.35 liters only, and but it's two band speakers, so here used 275 carbon diaphragm woofer and 1-inch silk diaphragm tweeter, or actually not silk diaphragm but silk dome tweeter, so that's the correct description. Also it uses active crossover built into both speakers, so after amplification it delivers 10 watts for tweeters and 30 watts for the woofers. So seems pretty enough, and they have nice total harmonic distortion, and actually every single thing here in the design and structure of the speakers are well thought. And if you're interested, you can visit FiiO's website. They have a long description of each idea they put here, why they selected these woofers, the speakers, what is difference, and so on and so forth. And actually they have also internal S-shaped base port tube, and they also describe that on website, so interesting reading if you like to dive into the ideas of creators of the thing. I won't be filming unboxing today, it's time consuming, and actually box is fairly simple. It's FiiO's black typical black polygraphy big box with handle on top, and inside you'll get everything is packaged with foam with a lot of spacers to protect everything, so delivery won't damage them most likely. So inside you'll get two speakers, active one and passive one, or main and secondary, or whatever call it, and two pair of stands. I unpacked only angled ones. Those gives about 7 degrees of elevation to the speakers, and second pair is just straight, used for vibro isolation from the surface, so you can listen to great bass without making your table shake. Also you get a pretty big power supply unit because they require 24 volts of well stabilized power, and two cables. So one is to connect two speakers with each other, so here it is. So it's 8-pin connector, if I understand correctly. So it used to transmit audio signal, power, and LED control from left channel to right. And also you get this double RCA to 3.5 millimeter cable. So why they didn't make it double RCA? Probably because they have two outputs on the back. One is just 3.5 millimeter and second one is RCA, and you can either connect this one here and connect double RCA to your digital to analog converter or preamplifier, or you can connect double RCAs here and use 3.5 millimeter connector for some player. So pretty smart idea in this case. So as you can see, accessory set is pretty big. So let's talk about the design. Here is left speaker, so you can see that it's much less interesting compared with right one. Here is the bass port and the small connector to connect it to the right speaker. So we'll be using right one because it has more connections and more other interesting things. So it's pretty compact, as you can see. It's fully made of aluminum, and it's it's pretty heavy. If I remember numbers on FiiO's website correctly, it's 1.8 kilograms of weight. So they used some protective dust cover for the tweeter, but no protection for the woofer, so it's better not to touch it with hands or like stick scissors in it and keep it away from children. I remember my childhood and I destroyed one pair of like not good speakers, but at least they were working because I wanted to see what's inside. But let's move on from that sad stories. I like this striped design. There are two versions, same as R7, black one and white one, and I suspect that white one will be limited in terms of units made, but it's not sure, but it will be rarely met. So nice solid design from all perspectives. You can stand them flat on the table, you can use that angled stay to make it bit upward facing. I'm thinking about putting them on the isoacoustics stands to move them a bit higher to the level of my head, but I need to try. I have spare pair of 15 centimeter ones. And on the back side we getting a lot of interesting things. So here is port to put 24 volts of power in, output to the left speaker, and on-off button. So actually it requires just a single click. I tried to hold it for long, but it's a single click because while you will be holding it, it won't be turned on. So just a little press. Then here we have a switch left-right, meaning that you can switch left and right channel, and actually it's pretty good. They have markings R and L here, but you can change it in the opposite way, and it gave me an idea that I can put them on table in a bit different way. We'll need to experiment with it right now. Also we have two set of inputs. One is 3.5 millimeter connector and second one is double RCA. Also two buttons, one select one of these two inputs, second one is turning on and off pulsing and breathing RGB lights. They are put here in the foundation of the speaker, and they are actually not bright, so don't worry, it won't shine like New Year tree, or sorry, it's Christmas tree for the rest of the world. And also two knobs, one for the volume and the second for the bass, and you can select amount of low frequencies if you want more focus on the mid frequencies and the bass, and you can select volume, which can be pretty high actually, but more about that probably in the next part of the review. So as you can see, it's just straight to the basics active speakers without some Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, I don't know, digital inputs, so they created to be used with something else. and actually FiiO a bit pushing you towards their solutions, because you get some degree of flexibility. Of course, they look great with R7, but for example, if you want something cheaper and you want to use it as Bluetooth and with Bluetooth and USB, you can get FiiO's BTA30 Pro, which actually is a Bluetooth receiver and digital tonal converter that you can connect to the line-in of these speakers, and had a pretty great home setup. But anyway, let's proceed to the next part. And of course, about the sound, this part will be pretty chaotic. As I already warned you, I have no experience with speakers and I have no points of reference. But I tried them in two scenarios. First one is near field speakers, and I suspect that it's their most used scenario, but of course they can be also a part of multimedia system for movies and video or something like that. And also I try them as speakers for the room filling sound, but more on that a bit later. So main usage scenario, for at least for me, maybe for other people too, is that near field speakers. I'm working at the laptop and they stand like, I don't know, like 2 feet away from me, maybe 3 feet or maybe even less, somewhere there, like not more than that, and they show the really good performance. First of all, they can be really loud if you need that. I wanted to try their maximum volume. You know, it's like everyone does that, or at least try to do that, getting new pair of speakers. First of all, because it's interesting how loud they could be, because the child lives in us all. And also I wanted to hear like what will be with distortion on the maximum volume, but I abandoned this idea because on the level at 12 o'clock of the volume dial, it was already too loud for me. It was a bit uncomfortable in this near field scenario, and it was pretty loud for the room, so if I moved the volume even higher, probably I've got problems with my neighbors, because they are pretty loud. I'm not sure like about totally deafening sound, but for me it was even a bit too much. So I usually listen them at about 25, from 20 to 30% of volume, and it's enough for me in this near field. And what is pretty good, what I like here, they remain sound signature on the different volume level. Turned on the quiet level, like to give you just a musical background, or moving higher, you can get about the same signature, pretty balanced, but you can also change this signature with bass knob. On the minimum level of bass, you're getting nice mid and treble centered signature with a good level of detalization. Of course, it won't be a headphone level of detalization. I mean some natural monitoring planars, but still good amount of details, nice airness, pretty extended treble, not to the maximum level, but pretty good. And if you want some electronic music, you can of course turn bass to maximum, but to be honest, I wouldn't try that, turning simultaneously to high volumes and to maximum bass. So I usually use like 12 o'clock bass, and that's what they are set for now. And on the higher volumes, you can just see how big is amplitude of moving of this diaphragm for that speakers. I suspect they are created to move that way, but you know, on the high volume and more bass, I'm not sure that it won't cause some damage. But probably it won't, who knows. And also they generate this constant stream of air from these bass ports too. So I prefer to keep them at 12 o'clock. Still, if you also, what you need to keep in mind, if you turn bass more than 12 o'clock, like about 60 or 70%, bass became dominating in the sound signature a little bit. They still sound pretty clean and clear, but focus shifted towards the bass. So if you need a more technical performance, keep it at 12 o'clock or so. And another thing, another thought that came to my mind recently, I think that for some people it will be like transitioning point from regular speakers to from regular headphones to the speakers, and like almost like I do, a lot of people will try these speakers as the first ones. And it's great way to demonstrate you the difference between headphone sound and speakers. In headphones you're getting more focus on the micro contrast, especially for the monitoring models. You'll get more extended treble, but instead here you're getting more lively representation with bigger stage, with more natural performance, and with that surprisingly great kicks on the mid bass. It's like was their strong part. First track I listened with them was Bolero, and it was a really nicely sounding option. Of course, it's not like some few $1,000 full-size speakers, but still starting with that quiet intro part when more and more instruments came in, and it's at the end part when everyone is playing with that mighty kicks that present, they deliver really good sense of presence and vibrance. But even with electronic music you can get pretty decent results. Unfortunately, I don't know how much of the track I can use here to show. Of course, it doesn't demonstrate too much because, first of all, I use mono microphone, and also, of course, it will be distorted by microphone, by YouTube codec, by video codec used here, but maybe it will give you just a slight hint of that sound. So I'm against of that listening to something via YouTube, because it's absolutely not a correct way, but just slight impression I really want to give it, because they deliver nice low frequency rumble, and it's like 12 o'clock bass and like about 20% of the volume, and even now table shaked a little bit. So of course don't expect subwoofer-like performance with that ultra-low deep frequencies, but in general, even with electronic music, it sounds really pleasant. And when we came to something more or less focused on the low frequencies, it sounds really pleasant with good sense of spaciousness, with good amount of details, with good balance of frequencies, so really like natural tuned in terms that they don't try to move something like to the lows or to the treble, but you can adjust that. But in 12 o'clock it's sound about balanced, at least to my ears. But of course, they are showing the most impressive results when you have something epic to play. So this intro on my old, many years ago when I worked at the computer hardware store, we used this track to demonstrate sound systems to customers, and usually it was something cheap like Sven or some cheap Genius, and they sounded really bad here because that punches and orchestra part at the beginning like totally destroyed the speakers in terms of holding low frequencies. Well, they started to like ripple and sound totally bad. But here you're getting nice punches. If you crank volume a bit up, you'll get that huge, okay, not huge, but viable stage, not available in the headphones. You'll get that sense of weight, of monumentalness, and when it transitions to the vocal and main tune, also you'll get nice resolution and emotions. I try them, of course, with video, and they are also good. Actually, for video I also use Shenling Jet, but compared with Jet a bit better develops mids and treble because they have Hail driver. but also they are a bit more detailed on the bass, but at the same time they are not that impactful because they have bigger bass speaker, and actually it's not that punchy and not that energetic compared to this model. So and it's really fun when you're watching some action movies or something like that, because all that blasts and gunshots can really sound, well, maybe not in a realistic way, but in really impressive. And thanks to the proper stage and good performance on the mids and treble, you'll hear the voice, of course, if it's mixed properly, and overall impressions are pretty pleasant. But sometimes I've got some movies with like really quiet voices, because often translation and dubbing to the foreign languages done this way that it distorts the overall mix and balance of sound. And the third scenario I tried, it's in my kitchen. It's about 10 by 5 meters and pretty long and extended room, well, relatively. And I used them as speakers to fill the room, and they manage with that task pretty easily, sounding really good from in the every single corner. Of course, you won't get that perfect stage that that good stage. I'm always trying to use some exaggerating words because I don't have anything to compare, but in near field mode stage is good, and actually if they are put flat, they have more width and like normal depth. But if you rotate them a bit inwards, you're getting more depth but slightly less width. So FiiO paid attention to distributing of sound waves. Probably this shape does something to that. And I've got also really good results if I use isoacoustic stands to raise them about 20 or 25 centimeters higher. Actually 150 model is pretty good here with these speakers. I've got a spare pair to use it. They are a bit wiggling on the table in this scenario, but still pretty okay sounding, and actually putting them up really improves that sense of height in the stage building. Actually in headphones I never got that sense of like height changes, but here with speakers I've got a little bit of that. So going back to room feeling, they did that okay with clean and pretty well detailed sound, and punches of course won't be as great as when you sit near them, but still they deliver that sense of punchiness and really nice way. So for me it's really great offer for $300, because I don't have to compare pair with anything. They are really well balanced, they are pretty universal in terms of tuning thanks to the bass knob, and they build like tanks and they sound well, so what else I can say here. So if you're looking for some small active speakers, just pay attention on this model, and especially if you're looking for the companion for the R7. But as I already said, you can use it not only with R7, like with M17 or M15S in desktop mode will be great. BTR30 Pro is also a great companion. Some digital to analog converters by FiiO, starting with K7 or even K5 Pro, ending with K9 Pro. So, and of course not only FiiO's gear can be a great option. So that was FiiO SP3. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention. Hope this review was at least a tiny bit useful. See you next time.